somewhere. I saw him once.
Director McCormick's just giving me a call right now. Hello, Director McCormick. Would you like to join by phone? I'm going to give you the information now. You're going to phone. Yeah. Okay. 1778 907 2071. Meeting ID 25. Yeah. 9967 3234. Passcode 04 3262. Yes. I'll be sending it to your personal email as well. Thank you. I'll just, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 directors right now. She's going to just call in shortly, but we have quorum. You wanted to start?
I think we'll start because we've got 4. So if all the microphones are on and we're live, I've got the thumbs up. So we call this meeting of the Finance Committee of the Qathet Regional District for September 21st, 2022 to order and recognize that it's taking place on the traditional territory of the Willamette people who have lived here for many thousands of years. The first item would be the approval of the agenda. I have 2 different copies of the agenda, but the one I'm calling for approval of has an item 7.13, Resource Recovery Center Organics Transfer Trailer Procurement on it. Hope everybody's got that, so we can have a motion to accept the agenda. Director Brabazon, do I have a seconder? Director Paul, any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor? Any opposed? The agenda is adopted as circulated. Now we are on to item 3.1, which is minutes of the Finance Committee meeting August 17th, 2022. With your pleasure, folks.
Adoption.
Director Fall, do I have a seconder? Director Brabazon. Any errors or omission or discussion on the minutes? Don't see any hands. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as circulated? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Now, delegations and inquiries. Mr. Rob Ringma, BC Transit Government Relations Senior Manager in Qathet Regional District Transit Update. Nice to see you again, Mr. Ringma. I haven't seen you since yesterday. City Council.
Yes, I apologize. I apologize to you and Director Leachman. There's a little bit of repetition from last night to today. I will share my screen and start my presentation. If you can just let me know if that has come up on your screen.
I see it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you, Chair Dout, directors and staff. Glad to present to the Regional District again. I apologize, I was in Powell River last night, but I've had to kind of move my way along the coast. I actually took the Sultry Bay Ferry this morning, saw a couple humpback whales on the trip, and I'm in the Sunshine Coast today, actually presenting to the Sunshine Coast Regional District tomorrow. So just great opportunity for me, kind of post-COVID world, to actually get back out into the regions and you know, get into the transit systems and just get a real good feel again for where things are at. So today, I want to provide a bit of a ridership update. Talk to you a little bit about where we are on our digital on demand strategy. I know that's kind of near and dear to the regional district, considering the study that you guys are embarking on. Talk a little bit about the transit improvement program, and I know there's a staff report later in your agenda today, and then talk a little bit about our upcoming transit future service plan, and then I'll take any questions at that time. So this graph here is our provincial ridership. What you'll see along the top is 2019, where we were progressing quite nicely before COVID hit. And you can see that real drop in the lower line and that steep decline in March of 2020 when COVID hit. And then the lines kind of moving upwards. You'll see successive kind of increases in ridership from 2021, and now you'll see here in green the 2020 tracking quite well. We're not quite back to pre-COVID levels provincially, but we have been hitting upwards of the high 78 to mid 80%, depending on the weeks. And what we've seen is with the September return to school, our traditional kind of pattern of ridership increases around September have
Well, looks like you're frozen up.
oh, geez, do you have me?
We can hear you now.
Yep.
You're back.
Okay,
You're
yeah,
back.
I'm getting your internet connection is unstable, so I apologize for that. This is ridership in the Powell River conventional system. So this is not the qathet rural paratransit system. I have that in the next slide, but you'll see there has been kind of that similar trend of recovery of ridership from 2019, which is great to see. And the conventional transit system is nearing its pre-COVID ridership, which is great. For the rural paratransit, again, you can kind of see this graph goes from 2019 through till 2020, kind of current 2022, I should say. And you'll see some of those same patterns. You'll see the COVID decrease. What we're seeing is some continued recovery into 2022, which is good to see. But I put kind of the green bar there as our target, which is our pre-COVID levels. And we still have a little bit of work to do to get to those pre-COVID levels. But again, seeing that recovery, seeing ridership returning, and as we continue to kind of improve the system and make adjustments, hopefully we'll continue to see that trend line continuing. From an on-demand perspective, I just want to update the board on where we are in our digital on-demand strategy. As you likely are aware, we started to explore this new service type in the form of digital on-demand in 2019, fiscal 2019-2020. In 2020, we sent out an RFI to several vendors, mainly in order to better gauge the offerings available and try to assess the scenarios where digital on demand has been a success in other systems and other regions. In 2021, we launched a feasibility study. We did 2 feasibility studies, one in Cranbrook, one in Kelowna, where we felt we could further assess and analyze those conditions, the parameters where digital on demand can be a success, and basically start to work on a further methodology for incorporating digital on-demand services within our BC Transit kind of suite of options. So as you know, we have conventional system, we have some rural paratransit, we have custom handy dart, and looking to see how we can add digital on demand as another pillar in kind of our suite of options. So that kind of brings us to this year where we are launching a digital on demand service in Kelowna. And I'll just go to the next slide. So we're launching that in one community to test the service type. Clearly what we need to do is we need to understand what technology provider we want to use, the fleet type that we want to use, put it into market, run through all the operational challenges, and get a real good grasp of how we want to roll that out, with then kind of looking at that mid-range implementation of rolling it out to some other selected communities in kind of late 2024. So this actually kind of lines up quite well, I think, with the on-demand shuttle study that the regional district is embarking on. I know that's going to take place kind of over this year. So, we've already had some communications with staff, making sure that we're working closely with them, providing as much input as we can as a stakeholder as we kind of go through our processes to try to support that, with the end goal of understanding at the end if that's an option that we should be exploring within the regional district. And then, of course, the long-range plan is once we have this program fully developed, we'll be able to roll that out to applicable communities. So from a transit improvement program perspective, many of the directors here will likely remember they approved an extra service day to Texada Island last year when I presented to this board last year. That included an additional bus. And unfortunately, the province approved our base level budgets for last fiscal, but they did not approve additional expansion requests. So BC Transit, with approval from the board, intends to reapply this year through our TIPS process to the provincial government for matching funds to support that Texada Island extra day expansion. Our target implementation for that will be July of 2023. And that additional bus, and I think I described this when I presented last time, that additional bus, we need that because we don't have the available buses to provide that extra day service. But once we unlock that additional bus, it'll actually allow us to do additional expansions or additional service day additions down the road. It's been a bit of a pinch point for us in terms of the number of buses we have in order to increase our service. So this really kind of opens the gate to allow us to easily do, I shouldn't say easily, but move forward with additional expansions. So from a regional district perspective, we did revise our costing for this initiative. It's 500 hours. As I mentioned, it's going to require an additional bus. And the estimated annual net municipal share of costs for that will be $34,722. Come up later for recommendation and potential adoption. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about a Transit Future Service Plan. So the Transit Future Service Plan is really our longer range planning document. So what we'll be doing is we'll be doing an update to the 2015 Service Plan Review, and we're looking at all of our kind of transit goals and objectives, including some that the City of Powell River have already outlined. But we'll be working with the City of Powell River, the Regional District, and even our First Nations partners to really get a good understanding of what some of the requirements are in the region as we move forward and some of the planning priorities that we have. And basically how we'll do that is we'll review and prioritize our service and the infrastructure that we have. We'll do extensive stakeholder public consultation, and that will really help us inform future service decisions for the regional district and the city over the next 5 years. And I'll just go to the next slide here, just in terms of timeline. So we've actually already drafted the terms of reference. So we're moving with this process right away, starting here in September. I've got to review those terms of reference, and then those will actually come to the board and the city for adoption. And then we'll get right into reviewing the transit system, start our public engagement plan, drafting our priorities, and moving forward with some public engagement and open houses. And then we'll be presenting, and of course we'll be working with staff through this whole process with the ultimate goal of coming back to this board and presenting the results and the priorities that we've highlighted, and then those priorities will then set that next round of transit improvement opportunities. So I'm really looking forward to this process. It got delayed a little bit by COVID, and I'm just happy that we're moving forward with this process. And I think it'll go and it'll work well with some of the on-demand studies that that your staff are currently moving forward with, and we'll obviously be working with them to try to make sure we don't have too much, I'll use the word clutter, in the marketplace when we're doing public engagement. We'll try to make sure that we're being very clear on the different pieces of public engagement and stakeholder engagement that are happening in the region during that time. And lastly, just want to give you a quick update. We are moving forward with our electronic fare strategy. I had presented this previously to the board, but we are moving forward, looking like we're going to roll out in early 2023. And of course, this is going to allow our customers to be able to not just use cash or passes. In addition to cash and passes, they'll be able to use mobile apps, their Visa card, their Interact debit card, in order to seamlessly purchase transit passes when they board a bus on board the buses. So we're looking forward to the rolling out of that program. I think it'll really provide additional convenience for a lot of our customers. So that wraps up my presentation. I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll take any questions at this time.
Great, thank you. I think we have Director McCormick on the phone right now. Can you hear us,
yes.
Director McCormick?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm having some telecommunications issues, so I'm sorry about that. But first, to Rob, I want to say thank you very much for keeping the Texada expansion project on your horizon and on the books. And yeah, we've been waiting for a while, and we'll just keep on waiting. And hopefully, it will be approved next year. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you for coming.
Anyone else? No more questions? Okay, what a happy crowd tonight. Well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
I don't think you're asking for any particular action for the board tonight other than to give your report. Is that correct?
That's correct. Staff may want to comment on that. I think there is something in the report section.
Okay. Thank you. We'll see you again next time.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So we have no unfinished business. That brings us next to the correspondence, and I think we'll deal with those one at a time. So item 6.11. Data Arts.
I'd move receipt.
Move receipt. It's seconded by Director Brabazon. Any discussion? All those in favor of receipt?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried unanimously. 6.12. Matt Fraser. Everybody deserves a smile.
Receipt.
Move receipt. Director Brabazon, seconded by Director Brander. Any discussion? Don't see any hands. All those in favor of receipt?
Aye.
Carried unanimously. 6.1.3. Lois Gagnon, President of the Powell River Academy of Music. Here's somebody receipt. Director Brander, seconded by Director Brabazon. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
That's carried unanimously. Moving on to BC Transit 3-year Transit Expansion Initiatives report. Somebody like to move the motion? Leishman. Seconded by Director Brabazon. Any discussion? Don't see any hands. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Item 7.2, bus service for October 15th, 2022 election day.
Move the recommendation.
Director Brown.
Second.
Director Brander, seconded by Director Leishman. Any discussion on the free bus service for election day? Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say I think this is a great idea. I think getting people out, making it easy for everyone to vote if they so choose, and hopefully everyone so chooses, is great. I would love the same similar thing on Lasqueti, and I'm wondering how we might get some people who have transport issues out to the polls here, but that's our problem. But I think this is a very good initiative. Thank you.
I don't think it'll be a hotly contested election for the regional district.
No, but for the Islands Trust, there's seven candidates. So,
okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Fall River Community Forest, item 7.3, Palm Beach Access Improvements Grant Application. Moved by Director Brabazon, seconded by Director Brander. Any discussion?
Chair.
Brander.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm really in support of this, and I just want to commend Mr. Debra for recognizing this opportunity.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 7.4, permissive tax exemption request for the Royal Canadian Legion 232 Texada Island. What's your pleasure?
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay, I have a seconder, Director Brander. Any discussion?
Yes, Chair, may I speak?
Go ahead, Director McCormick.
Thank you. Just to say thank you to staff for this recommendation. And we've been around this block so many times that I have to really express my thanks to you for coming forward with a recommendation to approve it. So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Let's see any other hands. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Moving right along to item 7.5, permissive tax exemption for the Myrtle Point Golf Club. Moved by Director Brabazon, seconded by Director Leishman. Any discussion? Don't see any hands. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 7.6, Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Volunteer and Composite Fire Department Equipment and Training Grant Opportunity.
move the recommendation.
Have a seconder?
Second.
Brander. See the Ryan Thomas on the screen. Would you like to make any comments before we vote?
Just simply, this is a good opportunity, Chair, for the regional district's 4 fire departments to get some necessary fire equipment.
Okay, thanks. Any other discussion, directors? Don't see any hands. All those in favor of the motion? Any
Aye.
opposed? That's carried unanimously. 7.7, Texada Rescue Financial Relief Opportunities.
I'll move the recommendation.
Have a seconder for the recommendation? Director Paul? Any discussion? Director
Yes,
Paul?
may I comment?
I'll let Director McCormick go first.
Okay, go ahead, Director.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I upon close examination of their books, Texada Rescue has been remiss in not applying for some of the reimbursements that they are entitled to, and I'm quite satisfied that if they put forward those applications and receive that money, that will solve their problem for this financial year in any case. Did you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Thank you. I think everybody
Okay,
can hear you.
thank you.
Everyone's nodding their heads. So Director Fall, did you want to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say it's always good to find money that we didn't know, that wasn't known about. And I'm not sure why there's echo. But this also has long-term good news. It looks like, because this should always be there, if I understand, and Mr. Toms can correct me if I'm wrong, but the improvement district can access this funding for outside their service area in future years too, as it's appropriate. So I think this is actually should be really good for the financial situation of the improvement district.
Don't see any other hands, but I want to thank staff for coming up with this solution to the thorny problem that they're having over there in Texada, and I support the resolution. Seeing no other hands.
Chair, one further comment, Chair.
Okay, Director McCormick, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just to say that it was kind of a really unfortunate that they ended up in this position. So I hope we can all, kind of learn from this, and that if ever legal funds, drain a services operating budget again, that at least they'll be warned that this is going to happen, and be able to plan for it. So once again, I'm glad the problem is resolved for now, and I appreciate that. We can just learn from it as well. So thank you.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. When we come to the interim financial statements to August 31st, 2022. And see, is Ms. Greenan online? Would you like to go through a verbal report on what's in front of us?
Thank you, Chair. Yes. These are the interim financial statements to August 31st, 2022. And there are some minor variances that I have tried to draw your attention to on page 3 of the report. But none of them are significant enough that they will require a formal budget amendment. Except for the one for the Texada Island Recreation Commission. There is a capital budget for regreening, and that did not include material and wages. We were just looking at the actual grant portion, but there's a portion that is paid for through that regional district's funds, and so that will require a budget amendment, and I project that will come forward in November with some other minor budget amendments. Other than that, there are some minor variances and cost overruns, but spending to date and revenue collection to date is within the range that is anticipated to August 31st, 2022.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Greenan?
Yes, Chair, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, first, Director Fall.
Thank you. It's not so much a question as a comment, and there maybe there's some information I can get back. I'd like to speak yet again about honorariums for our volunteer fire departments. The staff report states, when budgeted costs occur uniformly through the year, it is reasonable to expect that 67% of the budget will be spent by the end of August. And I was interested to see how our honorariums compare. Malaspina Volunteer Fire Department, 51% has been spent. Northside Volunteer Fire Department, 49%. Savory Island Volunteer Fire Department, 36%. But Lasqueti Island Volunteer Fire Department, less than 8%. That's just out of $36,000 allocated, less than $3,000 has been spent so far this fiscal year. Now we know why this is happening, but this situation needs to be rectified as soon as possible by dispersing honorariums among all members of LIVFD, including first responders who do most of the emergency calls. The community has remained consistent, unified, and vocal on this topic. The public wants their tax dollars on honorariums allocated to honorariums to be spent. The LIVFD members want to receive them both for morale and to offset direct and indirect costs. And the QRD wants to use honorariums as a key factor of recruitment and retention, especially for younger members and members with relatively lower income. So I think we're all on the same page on this. We all want the same thing. We've heard from the public and many LIVFD members who've written letters to us, and we can expect to hear from them again if we don't resolve this. I would prefer for us to receive letters of thanks for resolving this. I know that our staff and our regional fire chiefs are working hard on drafting a comprehensive honorarium policy to bring forward, and I know that everyone has been very busy, but anything that can be done to advance this process would be welcome. I know people in our community, they ask me about it regularly. It comes up. So I don't know if, I mean, this isn't really the right point for an update on this item. I just thought I'd raise it because of the numbers we're seeing in the interim statements here. Thank you.
Director McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions regarding the Texada Airport. And the first one is right at the beginning on page 3 of the report, where it says in the box at the bottom that insurance costs will be overstated as staff are correcting an error from the dock service. And my question is, I thought these were silos and that you couldn't move money from the dock service to the airport or vice versa. So can you explain that for my understanding, please?
Ms. Greenan.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, what that was we did not realize that the insurance costs had accidentally been allocated to the Nanda dock in 2021. We just realized it in 2022. So to correct that, we have to make the correction in 2022 because 2021 the year is closed.
Okay, so that was just correcting an error then. It wasn't moving money from one silo to another.
That's correct. It was just correcting an error.
Thank you. And also on the airport, on page 78 of the report, there is the funding in there for the fencing, the $305,000 made up of transferring from reserves and then the borrowing. That's not happening. So I'm wondering, does that need to be taken out?
Greenan, go ahead.
Hello?
Thank you, Chair. No, we don't need to take that out of the budget, but we won't actually book any costs against it. So there won't be any, the actual cost will be zero. And then those funds they will not come out of the reserve, like any of the funding will not be allocated to that project in 2022 until that project decides to go ahead.
All right, so it just sits there, but the money doesn't get spent, but it's still on the books.
That's correct. Just
okay,
as a
my
budget.
Okay, thank you. Now, my final question about the airport is on that same page, looking down Texada Island Airport year to date is a percentage of budget, and I think you've got $1,256,000,000. That must be an error, right?
She's looking at her computer and trying to find the list.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Ms. Greenan.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I see the number that the director is referring to, and that is indeed an error. It has to be an error with the just the way that the financial statements are printing out. So I will look into that.
Okay, thank you. And I do have one final question, Chair, but if you want to go to other people first, that's okay. It's
go
about
ahead.
Something different than the airport.
Haven't seen any other hands.
Okay. So it's regarding what page is it on? Page, I think it was on page 4, and it had to do with director's remuneration. And I see that it's all kind of being taken out of general admin. And is that a change? Because wasn't a portion of director's remuneration previously charged to the different services? And is it being done differently this year?
Thank you, Chair. A portion of it comes out of general admin, and then another portion of it comes out of electoral area admin.
Okay.
Yes, and that's consistent with the new process that we've been using to allocate director's remuneration. When we last updated the remuneration, when we did the last remuneration review.
Right. So if So it's being taken at a general admin and then electoral or admin, but not the individual services? Because I was
No,
looking in the services and I didn't see it.
Ms. Greenan?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it is no longer allocated. We used to allocate the meetings to individual services, but that's no longer being done. We're putting them, they're grouping them all into general admin or electoral area admin, just to simplify the administration rather than having all of the meetings coded to each individual service.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions for Ms. Greenan? The motion in the agenda is to receive the interim financial statements. Would somebody like to move the motion?
What's that?
Director Brander, seconded by Director Leishman. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to receive?
Aye.
Carried unanimously. 7.9, waste management tipping fees. Okay, there's a number of recommendations here. I think there's, it looks to me like there are at least 4.
Through the chair, I see a bunch of ands.
Oh, there they are. Yeah, okay.
So I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, so that's one entire resolution. It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciated seeing the different options and of course, you know, trying to stay consistent with the plan and looking at the actual costs and so on. This made a lot of sense. I guess if you know, the one question I had, if I don't know if Mr. Debra is on the call, probably for him, but the second part of the recommendation has these decreasing maximum load weights, which from my, you know, the way I kind of understood those, that's to keep the, you know, the 750 you know, consistent with the per ton weights. I was just wondering how those in practice are to be administered. I mean, when you decrease a load weight from 30 kilograms to 29.412, how is that done on the ground, or is this a kind of more reporting mechanism?
I have an answer for that question from staff, Ms. Greenan. I can't hear you. I think your microphone is on mute.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Yes, we've discussed this with Augusta Recyclers, the contractors for the waste, and what they can do is that's why we need the 3 decimals, 3 digits after the decimals, is they can program their tipper so that it looks at the maximum load weight. So they can calibrate it so that it works out to the 750 and knows when it will go above that weight.
Okay, so they can know when it hits above, and then you can divide to get the number of loads without. I'm just thinking from the public's point of view. If you try to say, I got a 30 kilogram load here, oh, it's 29 kilograms and 400 grams. This is a scale issue, and then how it gets calculated.
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Anyone else? I've got a question. See that there's a charge in there in the second last paragraph, solid waste tipping fees on Waskeety Island to be $7.50 per bag and $37.50 per truckload. And I was wondering exactly what a truckload is. Is it a pickup truck, or is it a semi-trailer load, or is there some definition of what a truckload is? Ms. Greenan?
I'd like to, Chair, if I could direct that to Ty Allman from Let's Talk Trash team.
Sure, thank you through the chair. It's usually based on a 2-yard truckload, not a dump truck load, but regular.
2 yards.
2 yards is kind of what we've been using as our truckload, but we haven't defined that. And so I think that's a good thing for us to look at.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I think we've moved the motion and seconded it. I don't see any other hands up. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Then we're in for lots of excitement today. Item 710, the Myrtle Pond Water User Fees Bylaw Amendment. Director Leishman, moving the motion.
Second.
Director Brander, any questions for staff or any discussion? All those in favor of the motion in front of us?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried unanimously. 711, Lund Sewer User Fees Bylaw Amendment. Moved by Director Brabazon.
Second.
Director Brander. Any discussion? We've had a lot of reading to do the last couple of days. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. 712, Cemetery Fees and Charges Bylaw Amendment.
I'll move the recommendation.
Director Leishman, seconded by, is that you seconding Director McCormick?
Yes, it was here.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? Any questions? Fairly long list of changes and charges, but straightforward and all reflect costs. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Brings us to item number 713, Resource Recovery Center Organics Transfer Trailer Procurement. I'll move it. Director Brabazon moves the motion. Director Leishman seconds. Any discussion? Director Paul.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd like to hear from staff from a bit more on this. I think it's if they have something to add. At first I saw the price and I went, holy cow, but it's because it's aluminum. And I read the report, it laid it out very clearly. The customization, the aluminum, the liquid, the fact you got to catch the liquid, you know, which for all kinds of reasons, just makes it a much, not just your regular bin, but if Ms. Ullman has any additional information, I'd be happy to hear any further details on the nature of this trailer.
Sure, thank you.
I think we heard your question, Director Fall. Your microphone's kind of going in and out a little bit there.
Sorry about that.
Ms. Ullman, did you have an answer?
Sure, through the chair. A lot of it has to do with the design of our transfer station, and we found some efficiencies when designing the transfer station to use the design from the Church Road transfer station, which is working really well. We have a direct line to staff there, and they're using similar equipment. And so partly we need this customized trailer in order to work with inside the transfer station to be able to be tall enough to reach our tipping floor and meet the size of the pit that the waste goes into. So it's mainly for that reason that we need something this customized. And then also, like you said, the aluminum, and it also has a steel around it. And so will be effective for the organic waste and leachate that can collect.
Okay,
thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? Don't see any other hands. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. I want to say thanks to all the staff people who are online for their helpful comments today. It's been good. We have no new business. Question period. Mr. Galinsky, do you have any questions?
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much. I note in the Myrtle Pond Water User Fees Bylaw Amendment and the Lund Sewer User Fees Bylaw Amendment that the requesting board approve a 5% increase to the fee schedule. I'm wondering about the rationale behind the 5% increase.
Ms. Greenett, do you want to answer that?
Thank you, Chair. I'd actually like to direct that question to Jason Cowenhoven, the Assistant Manager of Financial Services.
Mr. Cowenhoven.
Thank you, Chair. So the largest factor behind this 5% increase is the inflation that we're seeing right now. Current British Columbia CPI, or the 12-month average has been 5.4%. And that is the best indicator of the prices that we're currently experiencing and we expect to continue experiencing. So that 5% increase is driven by a general cost increase in the service just to continue operating what we have.
I thank the manager for the response. I appreciate that. That was my question, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't think there's any other members of the public online, is there?
No, Chair, there is not.
So that brings us to item 10.1, proposed closed session. Would someone like to read the motion?
Okay, I'll read it.
Eager volunteer somewhere.
I'll read it. I move that the committee move in camera and that the meeting be closed to the public on the grounds that the subject matter to be considered relates to matters covered by the community charter under section 90 sub 1 G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the regional district. I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and N, the consideration of whether a committee meeting should be closed under a provision of this subsection or subsection 2.
Okay, have a seconder for the motion. Director Fall, any discussion at all? All those in favor of the motion to go into a closed meeting?
Aye.
That's carried unanimously. Let's take a minute or two to rearrange the room.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We're back in session.
Okay, we're back in session. We have no rise in report. That brings our business to an end, so we are adjourned. Thank you very much. And I just want to say thanks everybody for my years as chair of the Regional District's Finance Committee. I think this is my last meeting. So perhaps we'll see what happens in the future.
Thank you, Director Dout.
Yep.
Good job.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thanks,
George.
everyone.
Thanks for doing it.
Night, everybody.
Good night. Enjoy the sun.